So what is going on, guys? I am Amazing. Welcome back to another video where I just saw this tweet over on Twitter that really grabbed my interest. It was by someone called Pro Reborn. I don't know who this person is, I'm sorry. It just popped up on my homepage with over 700,000 views the last time I saw it and quite a few likes as well. So clearly a lot of people agreed with this because I would say Treyarch have been getting quite a bit of hate for their past few products. Normally, from the people I'm around, Treyarch are considered the best developers, especially with what Infinity Ward have done now with Modern Warfare 2. A lot of people hated Modern Warfare 2019, although personally I thought it was quite good. Before that from them we had Infinite Warfare, we've had COD Ghosts. For a long time, I don't think Infinity Ward have been at it. The last really good game, in my opinion, that we got from them was Modern Warfare 3. The rest have been either bad or mediocre, and within that time frame, Treyarch have taken over. Even though before that they had World at War, Black Ops 1, BO2, which were all massive hits. Black Ops 3, all super great games. Then we had BO4, which perhaps wasn't as good as the previous. Then Cold War, then Vanguard just for the zombies. I wouldn't be against anyone arguing, and I've even said it myself, Treyarch themselves have probably gone downhill as well, just like Infinity Ward. But if you look at every Treyarch game, every Infinity Ward game, every Sledgehammer game, which out of those three developers has the most successful Call of Duties? Or let's just say the most popular ones, the most loved ones by the fanbase, because you can measure success in multiple different ways. Player base, earnings, etc. We've seen plenty of things that have earned a shit ton of money that aren't necessarily the best. But I would say Treyarch, hands down, have way more good Call of Duties than any of the other devs. So yeah, overall, Treyarch are miles the better developer than any of them. And then going back to this tweet, the reason I brought this all up is because, well, the amount of people that agreed with it, I found pretty interesting. He said, Treyarch always getting railed. The campaign was scrapped in BO4, Cold War was pushed forward a year, Blackout 2 was canned months before launch, they were forced to switch to the IW engine, forced to do Vanguard Zombies, forced to do Modern Warfare 2 Ranked. I'm probably missing something. Basically saying that people are always hating on Treyarch, always bashing on them, but the one thing that everybody forgets is they're always dragged into somebody else's mess. They're always dragged into work on or finish off another developer's product. For the little hate that I do witness Treyarch getting, a lot of it probably isn't even their fault. It's not in their hands. It's either down to a different developer unable to complete their own game and having to have Treyarch to come in and help them out, or it's down to Activision cutting their budget or not giving them enough time. All of the bad things that we've seen from Treyarch lately isn't necessarily their fault. Going down this list, Black Ops 4 was originally supposed to have a campaign. It didn't. Instead, that was kind of replaced with the Battle Royale mode being Blackout. Now this one I kind of disagree with because without knowing the ins and outs, I think a lot of this does have to do with Treyarch. One of the big reasons why BO4's campaign was scrapped was because it just wasn't good enough. It was kind of like a successor to BO3's campaign, and we all know that Black Ops 3's campaign was trash. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it, it wasn't interesting, it wasn't fun, it was way too convoluted. It's probably one of maybe the worst campaign I've ever played for Call of Duty, and what Treyarch tried to do with BO4's campaign was continue that. Use that same formula that wasn't a success with BO3. That's a major reason why it was scrapped. I think it was the Activision higher-ups that saw what Treyarch had done with BO4's campaign and said, look, this is nowhere near good enough, and so it was them who scrapped it. I could be wrong in that, but for that one, I do have to put a lot of the blame on Treyarch because, once again, like BO3, they just started to make a campaign that wasn't fun. It wasn't a good campaign, so that was Treyarch's fault. They could have easily made a campaign like Cold Wars or any of the other ones they've made previously. They've made some great campaigns, BO1s, BO2s, World at Wars, but for some reason in BO3 they totally messed it up in my opinion. It was rubbish. They started to do the same thing in BO4, and for that reason it had to be scrapped because it wasn't good. So that one is on Treyarch, to be honest. They had the freedom to create a good campaign, they didn't, and it had to be scrapped. But yeah, back to this tweet, he also said one of the reasons why Treyarch shouldn't be getting railed is because of what happened to Cold War. Basically, if you don't know, Cold War wasn't originally Treyarch's game, it was Sledgehammer's. They worked on it, they developed the base of it for about a year before Treyarch had to come in and finish it off. I don't think I'm wrong in saying this, but the reason why Sledgehammer got moved away from Cold War and Treyarch came in was because them and Raven were having differences. It was both of those developers working on it. They couldn't see eye to eye. They were going nowhere. So Sledgehammer were moved to work on COD 2022, which was Vanguard. And instead, Treyarch had about 2 years left to finish off Sledgehammer's game, being Cold War. And it then turned into Treyarch's because they did most of the work. But a lot of the base that we see in that game, the core mechanics, was built up by Sledgehammer. So you could say anyone that hates Cold War, maybe a lot of what you hate in that game was to do with Sledgehammer, or even the stuff that is to do with Treyarch. Well, they didn't get the full development time that they would usually get to work on it. Nowadays, the development cycle for a Call of Duty game is about 3 years. Treyarch had about 1.5 to 2 years to work on Cold War, nowhere near what you'd usually get. Plus, they were working off a lot of what Sledgehammer made originally. So if you don't like Cold War, it's not necessarily Treyarch's fault. There are still some things in there I think they have to take the blame for. Story decisions, the routes they decided to take zombies, some of the blame can still go to them. But you can see his point. Ultimately, Cold War's success or failure, however you see that game, wasn't Treyarch's fault. Blackout 2, that was supposed to be a thing in Cold War. This map right here, the Aura Mountains, was supposed to be the Battle Royale mode in Cold War, but it got scrapped. Now, again, maybe this one is or isn't Treyarch's fault, because from what I heard, one of the main reasons why it got scrapped, similar to BO4's campaign, was just that it wasn't good enough, and it was the higher ups at Activision that made that decision. But it was something that Treyarch worked on, and it did get canned just a couple of months before it was supposed to launch. Treyarch did all of that work, they made the whole map, they spent a lot of time developing it, a lot of time that they could have spent working on the zombies mode or the multiplayer mode, improving that. Instead, they wasted it all working on Blackout 2, only for it to get scrapped. We'll never know if it would have been good or not, because that decision was taken. He also said they were forced to switch to the IW engine. That's something that all of developers going forward are going to have to put up with. They were forced to do Vanguard zombies, which we all know how that turned out. Yeah, probably the worst zombies we've had. Honestly, I really hated Advanced Warfare zombies as well. I don't think that was good, but Vanguard's probably the worst ever. But none of that is Treyarch's fault, even though they got a lot of the blame because it's their name on it. It's titled Treyarch Zombies, and when you see that, you expect something great, because Treyarch Zombies is held to such high expectations because of how good it has been. It's something that they've built up since 2008, and so to have their name on the Zombies mode of Vanguard, of course they're gonna get a lot of crap, which they did. However, for anyone that knows the ins and outs, even though we still have a go at Treyarch, we know none of that is their fault at all. Yes, they developed it, but they had no choice. And even then, the team that worked on Vanguard Zombies was only a small portion of multiplayer developers really. It wasn't even many of the main Zombies devs. To be fair, for what we got in Vanguard Zombies, maybe it did turn out alright, but it was nowhere near what you would expect from a Treyarch Zombies mode. But none of that was their fault. That was totally on Activision for dragging them into it, but also Sledgehammer for being, once again, unable to complete their own game. I don't know what to say about that studio anymore. And the final thing he points out is that they were forced to work on rank mode in Modern Warfare 2. Yeah, that's true. I don't know how many developers or time that would take from them working on their own game. I think it was only a couple of devs, but still, that's people that they could have working on their own products. That it's just one of the many examples of Treyarch being forced to work on other devs' games, and it's then Treyarch that takes the hit. It's then them getting the blame because their own game isn't up to standard, because they've had to focus on other dev stuff. So there is definitely a valid point here. And just take a look at some of the replies that people are putting. Somebody said, BO4's campaign was scrapped for good reason though. That is true. That's the one I kind of disagree with in this. 99% of that was because Treyarch just didn't produce a good product, and so it had to be scrapped. That was wasted work. That potentially could have made BO4 a lot better than what it was. Nero Cinema said, yet they still managed to put out the best games. Another true statement. Even though they've been dragged in to work on Infinity Ward's games, Sledgehammer's games, they've messed up a few things themselves. For the most part, comparing Cold War to Modern Warfare 2019 or Modern Warfare 2 or Cold War to Vanguard, since that's Treyarch's latest game, Cold War, there's an argument that Cold War is still a lot better than any of those other games. So with all of the problems that Treyarch have had to put up with, they still managed to put out some great products, just perhaps not as good as they could or should be. Somebody else said Black Ops 4's campaign scrapping was entirely on them, if we are being honest, because what were they thinking spending all of that time on that concept of theirs? It was doomed to fail. Everything else was spot on, and I'm still a firm believer in if Treyarch got a full 3 years of focusing on their own project, with no interference, then they could make something truly special. The last time they ever had that was with Black Ops 3, and it's what I still consider the last goated COD, and nothing after that game has come close. I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong in saying this, but they did get the full 3-year development on BO4 as well, unless there's something I'm missing or can't remember, but that's a true statement. Treyarch didn't get 3 years with Vanguard Zombies, 3 years with Cold War. Maybe they didn't get 3 years with BO4, I don't know, although I believe they did. But for the next Call of Duty, COD 2024, Treyarch will be getting 3 to 4 years to work on it. Their last game came out in 2020, and if it comes out in 2024, from the start of that game to the start of COD 2024, that's a 4-year development time. From the end of that game to the start of the next one, that's a 3-year gap. So they would have had 3 to 4 years with some little problems here and there working on Vanguard Zombies and a couple of devs working on Modern Warfare 2 Ranked and the multiplayer camos. But 3 to 4 years, we should see something good from them in COD 2024 if they don't get asked to work on this year's Call of Duty. The point is, Treyarch perhaps do take a lot more crap than what they deserve to. I'm not saying they shouldn't get any, there's still blame they have to take, but out of all of the developers, I've said this loads of times anyway, they are miles better in my opinion. They sometimes listen to the community, they know what we want. I think their games, the Black Ops series in my opinion, is miles better than the Modern Warfare series. I wouldn't have said that long ago, the original Modern Warfare series compared to the original Black Ops before we had the reboots. I think it was a lot closer, but the new stuff, even with all the problems, overall, Treyarch are a million times better, but you do have to kind of feel sorry for them because they've been put in so many situations over recent years that have probably hurt their own games, situations that they probably didn't want to be in. So yeah, there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the video today. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.